What's up, you guys? Mighty Mike here for another episode of the Mighty Mike Show. Today's show is going to be amazing. I brought a guest on specifically that I think could target one of the things I've been hearing the most from you guys. You guys are reaching out to me going, how can we get more help in our businesses? And then how can we get our ideas out there? This guest will speak to exactly those two things. So don't go anywhere. We're going to dive into it.
So the big question is this: how can we achieve financial freedom, quit the 9-to-5, and live a mighty life? That is the question. And this show will give you the answer. You are listening to the Mighty Mike Show with your host, Mighty Mike Reed.
Welcome, everybody. Got the wonderful Daven Michaels. Welcome, Daven.
Hey, it's great to be here, buddy. And, I was listening to your podcast earlier today, and I love your intro. Just got me pumped.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, the cowboy hat's actually being clean, but that's usually my style.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome, Daven. Guys, I put a little bit about him here. We're going to put some stuff in the show notes because we are going to dive into some value, and we only have so much time. So I want to dive right into it, Daven.
Sure.
Where do we start? Like, why aren't you working a 9-to-5 right now?
Oh, man. It's funny. I was working a 9-to-5, and one day my Uncle Mo came to me, who was the wisest man I ever knew. And I always did whatever my Uncle Mo said without exception, because he was just so brilliant. And at 15 years old, he told me, you need to start your own business. And that was not on my radar. I was working in retail. I thought that was going to be my life. I never thought about being self-employed, but I did whatever he said without question because he was so dang brilliant. So I said, well, what am I going to do? And he gave me an idea, and that's how it started. And then it morphed into something else. But my first business over 3 decades ago, I was in the clothing business. I designed clothing for music groups, and my bands had nothing going on. But an incredible thing happened. MTV came on the air, changed the face of music, and changed my life. So I was working with these bands that had nothing going on. Within about 90 days, most of my bands had record deals. Within a year, they were selling millions of albums, and I rode that wave, and it was a wild ride. And that's what started my entrepreneurial career. I've had several incarnations since then, but it's been a good ride.
Now, did you rub shoulders with, I know that's how Richard got started too, Branson.
He did. He wasn't in clothing, but I was designing clothing for all the biggest bands of the 90s: Prince, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Thompson Twins, Duran, Jack Nicholson, lots of big celebs. And that was the start. From there, I went in, I had a communications company, had a really stellar exit at a young age. That kind of changed my life. And then I was in primarily entertainment and communications. I was the biggest EDM event producer in the U.S. for many years. I parlayed that into a short career as a recording artist, pretty long career as a music and television producer, about 15 years. And then I started a sleepy little company about 15 years ago called 123 Employee. And started with one employee, but we ended up, today we have thousands of employees on 3 continents. And it's been a wild ride. And today I write a lot of books. 10th book is in the bookstores right now. I travel, speak all over the world, talk primarily about marketing, outsourcing, and crypto, a lot of crypto stuff. And today I'm in beautiful Puerto Rico with you here today. Where are you, by the way?
I'm actually in the mountains of Edgewood, New Mexico.
Oh, how cool. I love New Mexico. I've never been up in the mountains of New Mexico, though.
Yeah, you can't argue that the beaches of Florida, that's where I moved from.
Sure.
And I don't know if it could beat Puerto Rico or even San Diego or some of these other places. But when I came to Edgewood, I found the peace I needed in the mountain. It was like, this is why I get the whole snowbird thing. It's like, get away from all of that for a few months and then go back to it.
I love the desert. I love the stillness of the desert. I love the heat in the summertime. Believe it or not, the dry heat. My girlfriend Liz and we love it. I don't care if it gets up to like 110 or what have you. But if you're up in the mountains, it probably gets pretty cold up there too, right?
Oh yeah, it's snowing. Yeah, we have a snow advisory. It's supposed to get like 4 or 5 inches. In the next couple of days.
And then it gets pretty blazing hot, I presume, in the summertime, yeah? Or not as bad because you're in the hills. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of like the mountain. So Albuquerque is the closest city, and it's like 2,000 feet lower than us in elevation. So
I like Albuquerque. I've done a bunch of morning shows in Albuquerque, and it's a cool city.
Yeah, I love it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of hate on it, whatever for the Breaking Bad show and drugs and
Mm.
whatever, but that's every city. Every
Yeah,
city has those kind
for
of
sure.
struggles.
Yeah, violence and homeless and everything. Yeah, all cities have those struggles.
Exactly. So, what is your biggest win? Like, I love to get into the biggest win, but actually, our,
Mhm.
our awesome friend JLD, right?
My
He
neighbor.
coined this. Yeah, well, I got to give him a little credit since we talked about it earlier. But people that have been watching the show for a long time, I've mentioned this. I kind of formatted my show, the Mighty Mike Show, after his initial podcast, the way he did it in the beginning,
Mhm.
which is asking, what is that worst experience, right? What can we learn from and take us to that moment?
So are we gonna go best or worst first?
Let's start with worst because we don't want to end on worst, right?
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, I've had plenty of worse. It's funny when you look at my career, it's pretty awesome career. And I always say, if somebody has a good run, you zoom out, it looks really good. You zoom in, it doesn't look as good as when you were zoomed out, right?
That's true.
And so there was certainly pitfalls in my business, but the biggest and probably worst thing that ever happened was it was our company was doing phenomenal. They were our biggest numbers ever, and I got to a point where I'd never been before. This was uncharted territory for me. And typically, what you do in those situations is you figure it out, or you bring on a partner or a consultant or a C-suite person, somebody that's been there before, that's been in the bigger
Yeah.
numbers, right? That are up a couple of digits, and they can kind of show you the way to do it. So I opted for bringing on a consultant, and he was really an incredible guy. And honestly, we had a wonderful love affair. I really respected him, and I think he really had my best interests at hand as well. But it didn't go right. His methodology didn't work for our business. And I'll give you an example. He had some great ideas. So here was one of his ideas was, why don't we take all customer service calls and put them through the sales team before they go to customer service? Now, when you think about that, think about that. So it would go like this. Somebody calls in, hey, I'm having some issues with one of my employees. No problem. I'll transfer you to customer service. But before I do, Mike, let me just ask you, are there any challenges that you're currently facing in your business? Yeah, I could use more leads. Okay, cool. Well, listen, I'm going to transfer you to customer service, but do you mind if I follow up with you next week and we can talk about your lead gen? We might have some solutions for you.
Yeah.
Sure, no problem. And that sounds good, right? I mean, that's actually a very clever idea, but the sales team doesn't care about customer service. All they care about is sales. So
Right.
when they realize there's no sales opportunity, and or they've got to the heart of that sales opportunity, they were not really committed to making sure that customer service was handed off properly.
Mm,
And so what happened was we ended up pissing off our core base, but at the same time, our revenue numbers were going through the roof. So you see these revenue numbers going higher,
yeah.
higher, higher, and you think everything's going great. But what happened was we were just bringing in more and more new clients and pissing off our old solid clients who've been with us for so
Retention.
many
Yeah.
years, and we were losing them. And then we had a merchant issue because of all this, and that's when it kind of revealed what was going on. So we probably were not paying close enough attention to the metrics, et cetera, et cetera. Make a long story short, I had a business that was doing the best it had ever done, and all of a sudden we were in trouble, like big trouble.
Mm.
And to the point where I thought I had a solid company and realized I didn't have such a solid company, and that was a tough pill to swallow. And in the end, the team rallied, and we came up with a launch to kind of to bridge everything and get us through, and actually we flourished in the end. But it was a very challenging time for us, and a scary time. So yeah, that was probably one of my worst things I've ever dealt with.
Yeah, what I take from your story, honestly, is that anytime you partner with somebody or you bring on consultants and things like that, maybe getting like a third, another third opinion, maybe, or somebody else, but more importantly, just pushing through. Like in real
Yeah,
estate, it's
yeah,
go
pushing
ahead.
through, and also just not taking your eye off the ball. I think that was the big problem. I definitely
Kind of
took.
just trusting him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Business was going
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. The numbers look good. Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
Yeah,
Crazy. So,
yeah.
all right. So now let's transition. Like, because I feel like all of us have had that situation where it's like we want to just trust somebody. As a matter of fact, you're paying good money, right? You
Yeah.
hire a consultant, you're paying good money. You're like, this is going to result. And sometimes they were referred to you by somebody who is credible too. So you're like, this is a solid bet.
Yep.
And then you took your hand off the steering wheel. And I'm okay. So maybe what are some tips to avoid that for people who maybe haven't experienced that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's metrics, right? And there are dashboards to track all that stuff today, and we utilize that all now. And you just have to get really granular and look at everything, right? In that scenario, we had our eye on top line revenue, but we we should have been on top of net revenue. We should have been on attrition. We should have been on, client retention, new clients coming on board, old clients leaving, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So just a deeper dive into the metrics that matter probably would have really saved us in that situation.
Now, do you think in general, when it comes to building a business, that you need to have like a culture? Like that differentiates it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you need to or not, but it certainly can benefit you. So I kind of take culture and brand and put them together, and I'll kind of explain. So when I started 123 Employee 15 years ago, we were first to market. There was literally one other company and us, and that other company didn't make it. So we were literally the market leader, first to market. And when people hear about that, they go, "Oh, that's cool." But trust me, that's not cool. Like you never want to be first to market, because I always say you can always tell the pioneers because they're the ones with the arrows in their back, and that was definitely us. And so we start off as an outsourcing company for small businesses, and small businesses needed us, but they didn't want us because they didn't know we existed. And everybody's always trying to fill a need, but you really want to fill a want, because people need insurance, but I want a new Ferrari, right? And I'll do anything to get that new Ferrari. And so we realized early on that if we want to have a market, we'd have to somehow carve one out for ourselves. So at that time, we decided to adopt an educational model, which is, kind of commonplace today, but it wasn't back then. And so I began writing books. We started creating info products, eventually became a New York Times bestselling author, starts moving a lot of books, a lot of info products. I started speaking on stages around the world. We started doing our events globally, Australia, US, Europe, Asia, New Zealand, and doing webinars as well. And so we began we began educating our prospects and turning them into clients. And that's a methodology we still use today. And so, yes, that helped us grow the business exponentially, because every time I opened my mouth, I was going from marketing to one to marketing to many, right? Which was great. But what was really cool is we had a really fun, silly, play hard, work hard culture in our company that really pervaded the walls of our company. It was included in all our marketing and everything we did. And so what happened was last year when we had a merger, I was able to get top dollar because of this brand that I built. When you think about the outsourcing business, it's a highly commoditized business. People are just looking for the best price, good service.
Right.
And we were not the best price by any means. We charged a premium for our services and put education into the mix. And so as a result, we created a very strong brand that was a very profitable brand. And so when it came to, somebody wanting to merge with us, it really made sense. And so, that was kind of the hidden benefit of building a brand and culture. And I really think that brand and culture are hand in hand, because our family, or our employees, if you will, they really lived our culture. And that was, that's what we personified to the world. And that's what allowed us to charge a premium for our services. And I like to think that when entrepreneurs think about outsourcing, they think about 123 Employees. So.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's so cool. I got to tell you, when it comes to building a business, I always tell people, because I learned the hard way. I built businesses that ended up, fizzling out for whatever reason, different reasons, and whether it was COVID or things like that. But building a business with a plan to sell, right? Yes. Like that. Hey, what's this thing going to be worth at some point? I'm not going to die on the hill with this business, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we think that, right?
Yeah, we're always building to sell. So we're literally writing a playbook for all our businesses all the time. And it's really key. And then also, early on, at 123 Employee, it was really the Daven Michaels show. So you would show up to the website, there'd be a video of me. Hey, I'm Daven. Welcome to 123. And several years in, my VP Pajal came to me and said, hey, listen, we need to separate the brands, because when we go to sell this company, it's not going to be sellable. So we did, and that was cool, because we now use the Daven brand for everything under the sun. It's really great. So it's turned out quite well.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've thought about that too. With we were talking about before the show, 123 eFiles. Like, you wouldn't even know that I owned it if you went to the website. You're like, it's just some software company. I use Fiverr VAs to make the coolest, videos, beautiful actors and whatnot. So I know we're short on time. I want to actually dive into book writing, because I've written books, and until ChatGPT came out, I thought I would do the mind mapping, and then I would do the chapter, and I would do it that way. But what would you say, or like, what's some tips, like, just to get started right away for writing a book?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to write a book, especially with AI now, right? I mean, you can write a book super fast. It's probably not going to be a hit book, right? That those get written super slow typically. I will say that the writing of the book is the easiest part of a book. It's really the marketing and the back end that is so critical. Here's what we're going to do. Hang on one second. I'm going to grab some of my books, and we're going to talk about this. Don't go away. Yep.
So while he does that, guys, I just want to point out the fact that he has multiple best-selling books, and he is just like an author that's just crushing it with writing books. So if you're watching this, get out your notepad. See, I have my notepad right here. I got my pen. Okay.
Yeah.
Writing a new book in 2024 here.
Yeah, exactly. Because, people think that, they sit around, they don't write their book, and, they procrastinate, to put it off forever. And now it's going to be a lot easier to do that. But I'm here to tell you that the book is that's like the easiest part. I want to talk about like how to make millions of dollars from your book. So I got a stack of my books here. Okay. All right. So, each of my books, I always start with the end in mind, okay? Because here's the question, and I'll pose this to you, Mike. So is it possible to have a book, maybe not have a lot of sales, but still make $1 million from your book? Is that possible? What do you think?
Yeah, but not from the book, right? Like services from the book.
100%, 100%, absolutely. And you can make millions from your book. But so many authors always think about, I want to sell 1 million books. The odds of you selling 1 million books, you have a better odds of hitting the lottery. Okay.
Yeah.
But making $1 million from your book, if you're strategic, totally do that. You can make tens of millions of dollars. So I'll give you some examples. So the first book I wrote is out of print, so I don't even have it here. But that one was called Outsource This. And obviously, what was I trying to sell?
VA services.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And so in the early days, the first maybe 8 months or so, we were selling that book for $17.95. And then one day I was like, I woke up in the morning because I have my best ideas, when I'm sleeping. And I'm like, why are we selling this book? Do I care about $17.95? Of course not. I want more customers for my outsourcing company. So we started giving away that book, and we gave away hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies in print, an ebook, an audiobook, and made tens of millions of dollars. Honestly, of my 10 books, that was my most successful book. I call it my Citizen Kane. My first was my most successful, because we just really eventually understood that it was for one thing. It was to sell the outsourcing services. That was it. So then my next book was a follow-up to that one called Outsource Smart. And this one, the first one was self-published. This one was on McGraw-Hill. So nice thing about putting your book out on a top publisher is they pay you to write the book, which is kind of cool. But I'm here to tell you the cons far outweigh the pros, because
really,
yeah. I mean, in my self-published books, I make $15-16 a book, and this one I make $1. But but there was a reason for this. Remember, there's a reason for every book I write. So for this book, I wanted to hit the New York Times bestseller list. Why was that? Well, because I was speaking already to audiences of entrepreneurs, But I also wanted to speak to the C-suite, because these guys, there could be one guy in the audience that would hire for us for 150 agents, 150 seats, and that's like a
Yeah.
$2 million a year account, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt that this was all about positioning. I felt that hitting the New York Times bestseller list will get me in those rooms. And that's exactly what it did. Now, what was kind of cool is they forgot to, and that would never happen today, but then they forgot to include the audio rights. So when I finally realized that in my contract, we started creating tons of audiobooks. Now I'm dating myself, because you know what's inside this box?
DVD.
CDs.
CDs. Oh yeah, well, yeah, audio.
Your younger audience is going, I don't even know what that is, right? But
Yeah.
this was awesome, because we did hundreds of thousands of these, and my only cost was pressing them up. So this was like a windfall. So once I got hip to that, like, for the books, I'd have to buy like at retail, or well, I think they gave me a discount, but these I was just, we were crushing on this. So that was cool.
Audiobooks.
Yep. Sometimes I'm just writing about things I'm passionate about. I write an inspirational book series called Lessons from Beyond. It's about people who passed away and the lessons they passed on to the living. But books open doors. So I'll give you an example. This is a really cool story. So for each book of lessons, I interview people who've lost somebody in their life. They share that story of that person, and then any lessons that they glean from that person's life or death, and I craft the stories. So when I was writing this book, this particular volume of lessons, I interviewed everyone from like janitors to pop stars. And while I was writing this book, I started thinking about my Uncle Roy. My Uncle Roy was the speechwriter to Prime Minister Diefenbaker of Canada in the 70s. And when Uncle Roy, it was cool. He was an amazing man. And when my Uncle Roy died, I went to his memorial in Toronto. And at the time, the Prime Minister was Brian Mulroney. And the Prime Minister came and he read the eulogy. And that was pretty cool. And so years go by, and I'm writing this book, and I started thinking to myself, I wonder if the Prime Minister would do an interview with me about my Uncle Roy. So I reach out to the Prime Minister's office, and I tell them the story, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to interview the Prime Minister. And they say, well, we'll get back to you. Months go by. And one day I get a call from the Prime Minister's office, and they said, yeah, the Prime Minister will do the interview. I said, oh, great. So we did the interview. Interview was amazing. And he shared this story with me about this day when my Uncle Roy got in a knockdown, drag-out fight with Henry Kissinger and threw him up against a wall. And it was the coolest story. And I was like, oh, this is great. So at the end of the interview, he's like, okay, are you happy? I go, oh, yeah, I was super happy. He said, did you get what you wanted? I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. He goes, well, great. He goes, I have a favor to ask of you. I said, what's that? Well, at the time, I was in the music business in Hollywood. And he goes, look, I know you're in the business. He goes, we have a friend of the family that is trying to break into showbiz. Can you do anything? And I said, oh, I can get her an agent. And he said, oh, that'd be wonderful. He said, is there anything I could do for you? I said, well, you mentioned Henry Kissinger. I said, I'd love to do an interview with Henry Kissinger. He said, well, Henry's getting on now. He's about 85 now. And he said, I don't think he'd be a good interview for you. He said, is there anyone else? I said, Bill Clinton? He goes, I'll make the call. So he calls Clinton. Clinton goes, yeah, I'll do the interview. Now, Clinton was doing Hillary's Senate race at the time, not presidential, but Senate race. So he said, after that, I'll do it. And then I wrapped up that book and got busy and didn't follow up. But I did share the stage with Bill Clinton a few years later in London, 6,000 people at the O2 Arena. That's the kind of doors that get open to you with books. Another book here. This one is a multi-author book that I did. These are always great because you can, write a chapter, and then you're with all these other notable people. And if it hits the bestsellers list, then that gets you on the list. And then also you can use this kind of as a marketing tool. You don't have the whole book, you just have a chapter, but so what? Your name's on the book. I mean, why not? And my company, by the way, Michaels Press, I do own a small boutique publisher. We do these books, which is cool. So if you go to Michaels Press, you can find out about that. I will show you one cool thing about having books on major publishers. So one day I get this book in the mail, and I get sent a lot of books in the mail. People want me to do reviews of the book or read the book or what have you. But usually there's a note. There was no note, and I just got this book. And I'm like, it looks like Spanish, but I understand Spanish. I don't understand this. And then I realize that it's Portuguese, and then I see my name on it. I'm like, what the hell? So when your book's on a major publisher, they'll translate it into different languages, and this is another income and customer.
That's
channel.
the outsourcing one.
That's this one's Outsource Smart. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. Remember, I say that I'm always thinking about the end in mind, right? So this is every time I create a new book, my funnels get better and better. But this is my greatest funnel I ever created, and I call it a viral loop. Okay, so if you ever hear somebody doing a viral loop, that means they copied me. Okay, and so years ago, yeah, exactly. So years ago, people copy me all the time. But anyways, years ago, it's the best form of a compliment, right? Being copied or what have you. But
absolutely,
years ago, I started an association called the Virtual Entrepreneurs Association, VIA, and it's sort of all the tools, resources, and discounts that the small business owner needs. And I did it because I really wanted to corner the market for virtual entrepreneurship. And then COVID hit, and it was just great for us. Okay. Yeah. Right. But even like day one, we launched VIA. We had thousands of people join VIA on day one. It was really cool. And a lot of it was a result of this viral loop that I created. So I wrote a book that I wanted to coincide with the launch of VIA called The Virtual Entrepreneur. Okay. And this is actually my first fiction book. It's like a parable, like a Paulo Coelho book, or like, like The Alchemist or what have you. And it's cool. And I don't know if it's a good book. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, it's my first fiction book. But anyways, so I knew that I would sell 100,000 copies through VIA, through the association, right? I'm trying to keep this in here so people could see it. So I knew that that I would sell 100,000 copies, so I could just self-pub, right? Because everybody that signed up for VIA was going to get the book, or we were going to use the book as the marketing tool to get people into VIA. So I reached out to, in the last minute before we started to release, I reached out to Dave Hancock, who owns Morgan James. And Dave and I are old friends, and he had always said, look, Dav, if you want to put out a book on Morgan James, we would love to have you as a Morgan James author. So I reached out to him. I got voicemail. I said, hey, buddy, I'm putting out this book. I'm self-publishing. I know I'll sell 100,000 copies, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's some potential synergy with us. This was before I had my own publishing company. And he calls me back. He said, yeah, for sure. Call me. So he goes, look, we do Russell Brunson's books. He goes, Russell sells 100,000 a year on his own. He said, but we sell in the 100,000 a year in the bookstores. So we double, the amount of books that are out there. I go, oh, that's cool. Let's do that. So then we took it a step further. We created what's called a co-publishing deal. And co-publishing deal is less than 1% of authors do co-publishing. But here's how it works. So what I did is, because I knew that I could sell 100,000 copies, I manufacture these in China on my own, and in lots of 10,000. They cost nothing practically. And then David, we sell them on our own online. David sells them in bookstores, and then they send us back an 80% commission, because we're taking all the risk. We're doing all the printing, so we get 80% of the take. Okay. So it makes that part profitable. So then here's my viral loop. Okay. So if people are in the bookstore, rather than having a book, we created like a coffee table box. Okay. Looks like this. Now it had a different cover on it. It had this cover.
Have a QR code on it?
Well, yeah, there was a QR, but it had this cover. Actually, it didn't have a QR because this was a while ago, but just a barcode. But anyways, so this was for the bookstores. So people would see like, a coffee table box. All right. And then the idea was they buy the box, they open it up, it comes with a letter from me, it gives them a free trial of VIA, gives them the hardbound special edition of the book, gives them the hardbound success journal as well, so they can chronicle their success. Comes with a membership card as well. It's not here. And that would get people to go into the VIA funnel. Then they would, sign up for their free trial, but there would be a series of upsells and downsells, which liquidated the offer. And then at the end, it said, hey, if you thought the box was cool and you want to inspire somebody on their entrepreneurial journey, you can send out these boxes to your friends at no charge, just cover the shipping. Because I was manufacturing in China, the shipping charges literally, almost covered everything. Okay. And then what would happen is people who join VIA would receive a box like this, right, with this cover on it. So somebody's in the book. So to recap, somebody's in the bookstore, they buy the box, they activate the free membership, upsells, downsells, they go, they then dig it, they send a few of these out to their friends, and then their friends do the same thing, right? They sign up, go through the upsells, downsells, send out boxes to their friends, and it creates a viral loop. And this was wildly successful. So this is really, I think, when you think about books, we did like a little mini deep dive here. Look, writing the book, you'll figure that one out. I mean, for me, I outline it, and then I write on airplanes. I write fast and furious. I spend a lot of time on airplanes, and then I give it to an editor, and they clean them up. A lot of people dictate. Now everybody's going to be using AI. That's cool. But you really want to think about like, what's your objective of the book? That's where you want to put your thought, in like, what do I want this book to achieve? And don't think it's going to be book sales. You're going to kill it. That's the last thing you want to do. So, what is that I want to sell? What message do I want to share? And then work backwards. How can I monetize that? If the door is open with a book, how can I monetize that lead? And then you start building it out. And that's how you become a successful author.
I love it. I love it. So is there anybody who shouldn't write a book? Like if they're not going to follow through, or like who shouldn't write a book?
I don't think anyone shouldn't write a book. I think, books are awesome. And books changed my life. But there are people that don't have to, right? I mean, if you really kind of need to decide where you want to spend your time. Like, let's say I had a direct sales business, and I had a phone room of salespeople, and I was doing well. I could write a book to increase my business, but maybe I could just focus my money and my time on scaling my lead gen campaign, right? Maybe I don't need the book. So you really want to look at, your business, what would move the needle most in your business. And then of course, I'm talking writing books in terms of business, but occasionally, I meet lots of authors that are writing about their passion, right? They have a message they want to share with the world, right? And if that's you, well, a book is a great way to go, right? So I think it's just always, looking at, your time is finite. And so what is the highest and best use of your time? Where is your energy best spent, your time best spent, your money best spent? And then whatever that is, if the book checks all those boxes, yes, do a book. And if it doesn't, well, start with that.
I love it. Love it. So let's wrapping things up here. What are you working on right now that you're just most fired up about?
Hey, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Well, as you know, I live here in beautiful Puerto Rico. I've lived here. It'll be 6 years in just a month or two. Yeah, it's going to be 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Puerto Rico. You may or may not know this, but if you're a U.S. citizen and you jump through the legal hoops and you make your actual home Puerto Rico, we have a different tax authority here. And so as a result, it's a very favorable tax jurisdiction. So if you jump through all the hoops and what have you, you're looking at a 4% federal corporate tax, 4% federal, 0% capital gains, 0% dividends. So it is a huge game changer, and a bigger game changer besides saving all that money. John Lee Dumas, who's a mutual friend of ours, John always says this. I've stolen it from him, but he said, he used to work half the year for the IRS, for the government. Now he works, the first 2 weeks of the year for the government, right? And that makes a big difference. Also, the deal flow is extraordinary because you're hanging out with very successful individuals, decamillionaires, centimillionaires, billionaires. When I moved here, I knew a couple of billionaires, and if you asked them if they knew me, they might have remembered my name. Now I've got 20 on speed dial. We go jet skiing. So that, you are the sum of the people you hang out with, right? And obviously all of that has changed for me since I moved to Puerto Rico. So I'm a big fan. These days I'm on boards of several companies. I've become a big advocate for Puerto Rico. And I'm big on philanthropy. That's a big chunk of what I do. So I moved to PR 6 years ago, and I love communities. So I've got a couple million people that follow me globally. Here in Puerto Rico, I started a little sleepy community just after Hurricane Maria. But today we have over 1,000 people in the San Juan Social Club, which is a little group I created. And I do events once a month at curated locations across the island to bring Puerto Ricans together with Nuyorican like me for food, conversation, and whatever's possible from there. And it's been really neat. We've done some great stuff. I do it as a public service. It's free just to bring people together. But we have announced our first San Juan Social Club cruise next year on Virgin, and it'll be an annual cruise, group cruise. We have 250 people booked so far. We have some world-class speakers. We have a couple of former secretaries of economic development. We have John Najarian from Fox. We have New York Times bestselling author Joel Comm. We have Harry Dent, the economist, lots of big celebrities, if you will, in the business space. And the San Juan Social Club Cruise is for people that live in Puerto Rico and people that don't live in Puerto Rico that want to network, make friends, and learn about all of Puerto Rico's amazing resources and opportunities. And when I say resources and opportunities, I really put it into three buckets. One is governmental, the tax incentives. And there's more than just tax incentives here. We have like crazy incentives because that's how they draw people to Puerto Rico. That's their tool to bring people in, the tax incentives that they've been granted the ability to do by the US government. And so that's one. Two is all the services that guys and gals like me want to utilize. And lastly, all the cool things that people like me are doing here on the island. So we have it's about 75% people from Puerto Rico, 25% people from all over the world that are exploring Puerto Rico. And it's going to be an annual thing. We're on Virgin, which is the hottest cruise line on the ocean. Oh, yeah. And I'm super pumped about it. Yeah, and we still have a few cabins left. So yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I can't think I think it was roughly $2,000 or $3,000. I looked at, I was like, let me check my calendar. Like those are the kind of events where, like you said, you're rubbing shoulders. And the crazy part is you probably don't know it while you're there. You're rubbing shoulders with a billionaire, or whatever.
And the cool thing, though, what we're doing is we've set up, forced networking, so you will know who you're hanging out with. So which is pretty neat. Yeah, I've realized over the last decade of my life that really your network is your net worth, right? And and if you surround yourself with people that are just stratospherically doing better than you are, it'll elevate you, right? And so it's a great hack. It's a great shortcut. So it's been awesome. And, I invite you to, if you want to check out Puerto Rico or just have a great vacation with some really high level people, come on out and do the cruise with us.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. I got to check the calendar, but these are those kind of events. Get in the rooms. I'm always telling my audience, so get in the rooms of people who are making these decisions. And like John has always said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's right.
So what is your parting piece of advice for those action takers out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we touched on probably maybe 2 or 3 of the top things for me. One is try to lower your taxes, whether you move to Puerto Rico or not, because, it's not what you make, it's what you're able to keep and invest, right? 2, write a book. Books have absolutely changed my life. And 3, it's really easy to just hang out with people that are doing as well or not as well as we are. And I'm just talking about financially. I'm not saying like, if you have friends that aren't rich, you don't have to get rid of your friends, but get some friends that are rich, right? Or that are rich in experience, whatever richness is for you. Perfect example is my daughter. Okay. My daughter is really smart. She's young. She's young. She's smart. She's doing great. But she doesn't surround herself with people that are doing better than her. And she has so much more potential than what she is doing, even though she's successful, but you want more for your kids, right? But she's a perfect example. Like if she just got around some people that were really happening, oh my gosh, it'd be great. And I'm sure that will happen for her. She's a young adult now, so she's still figuring it out. But yeah, it changes the way you look at everything. I don't even look at business at all the way I used to, 7 years ago. So it really changed everything for me.
Yeah, as a parents, we always want more for our kids, and
Oh, yeah.
oftentimes it's hard not to feel like a hypocrite. It's like, you know,
Right.
you need, because we tell them do
Yeah,
all
you
the
want
things I'm not doing, you know.
exactly, and you just want the best for them. You know,
Yeah,
parenting is guilt, right?
yeah,
For me, parenting is guilt. I mean, it just is, you know.
that's so
So
true.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
good. Well,
yeah.
how can everybody keep up with everything you have going on?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm Daven Michaels on everything. So DavenMichaels. So, you know, I'm at Daven Michaels at Facebook and Instagram and everywhere you go. Also, my website is davenmichaels.com. From there, you can find kind of everything. And if you want to check out the cruise, you know, go to, I think it's just Google San Juan Social Club, and then there's a little cruise icon in the top. So
I'll
we'd
put it
love
in the
to see you.
description as well.
That
Yeah.
would be awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope to see everybody there. I'm definitely going
Yeah,
to try to make it, Davin.
you have to,
you've been-
man.
I mean, this is in so much value. Like I'm so inspired. Like I have a list of notes here.
By the way, I was just going to tell you real quick. That's awesome. I was going to tell you, yeah, by the way, successful people are note takers, but also JLD will be there. So JLD was going to be on the cruise, and then we had to change the date of the cruise, so he can't make it. But the cruise starts with day one on land. We were doing an event on land, and he will be there. He'll be speaking, so you can.
Yeah, such a cool guy.
Yes,
I've been following him since the beginning. What I think was the beginning, maybe a year after he got started.
Yeah.
And him and his wife, him and his
Kate.
and it's just so Kate. Yeah, so
They have
so
a baby
cool.
now too.
Do they really?
They just had one.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
little
Yeah, well,
boy.
that's what life is about, right? You go out there, get your bag, but in the process, enjoy the process and go through it. And so I like seeing people like you, that you're not just out there building brands and businesses, which you're doing a great job at. You're also enjoying the journey. It's very clear from the outside, looking at your website and everything and listening to interviews with other people, that you're enjoying this life.
Yeah, you know, I somebody a long time ago taught me, you know, build your personality into your business. You know, bring your personality into your business, and if you do, it really is fun. You know, you can really have a good time and add character to something that might, you know, normally be kind of boring. Like we made outsourcing sexy, you know, and that's not an easy task, right? So
No,
you know,
it's definitely not.
Yeah,
It's definitely not. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank
I
you.
look
Thanks
forward
for
to
having me.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, as things grow, I love to have you back on in the future.
Sure,
I know
love it.
you're a repeat guest, and you always bring the value. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, anytime.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, you guys just got all the value that you could possibly imagine. If you're thinking about writing a book, I literally have a book I wrote in notes on why to write a book. Okay.
I love it.
So go take mighty action, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much, Daven.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks, everyone.
All right, you guys, take care.
For more great content like this and your chance to win cash prizes each week live online, visit www.mightymikereed.com. That's www.mightymikereed.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite audio platform. Until next time, take care and live